Hello, welcome back. Thwopstorm, Stanley Parable, Deluxe Edition, Part 2. We're gonna go to the event this time.
Psst! Stanley!
What?
Come over here!
No.
In the vent!
Never.
I want to show you something!
No.
Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dog. Oh, never mind. You're not a dog.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I'm not a dork, but you're a dork. Got him.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want.
Right.
Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Of course. Sounds sweet.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh,
Nothing
the
means
waste.
anything. You're just a construct. Stanley Paraspace. We're just getting film and television arts. Lol. 2013. Oh. No, it's still the wrong time. Greatest wealth is memory. It's 9:13. It's 9:41. Whatever. Whatever. What's the time I entered when it first asked me to enter a time? Because I sure ain't keeping up with it. Anyway, the trip down memory lane. Smile because it happened. Right. Yes. It's impossible to get that achievement, right? Colleges show, even if you're doing real poor. Fair enough. I can't sit on the benches, so let's see.
Je suis dans la memory zone, seul sur l'abri de l'eau, et je n'attends plus que toi, mon amour.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now, a lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
I like the elevator content. The elevator content? Elevator? Memory zone maintenance. Really? Person of the year. Well, it's probably me. That'd be the most natural, at least. That's what I would think.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com.
Love to hear it.
The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
There we go. There's the door. There's the door. Yes. The blue and the red door. Ah.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Probably.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Have you tried, though? It's your life. Your life is a gag. God. Not recommended. Well, I can't read that. That's gibberish. Can't really recommend it either. Here we go.
Okay, let's see what this one says.
Yes.
While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. To be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure, like I let these people down.
Possibly.
Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Maybe. Nice place.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
True.
A skip button?
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt.
True.
Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Skip.
And here it is. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks.
Shame.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year?
Nope.
Let me just...
Fire. Skip the fire.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth.
I got more.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the
Clock failed. Shame. Seems fair. Hey, it's bright out. Sunshine and rainbows. Woo-hoo. Oh. It's a negative station in here. Next thing is gonna be a dinosaur coming through, right? It's gonna go Jurassic Park on here, yeah? Ah. Well, I mean, almost did. Oh. Oh, the sunshine's back. Hit for skipper.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Perhaps. Oh. This is pretty convincing.
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Okay. No. I don't get a story this time.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further.
Right.
Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Sounds dumb.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions.
Of course.
This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Really?
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Maybe. New hotness. Orange section chart, cool. Red section chart. They're back $2. Ah, the fern. Everywhere's blue.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it.
Okay.
I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Right. Yeah, a little bit. No.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Oh, wow. The button that says the name of the game. That's new. The reassurance bucket. Taste the sequel. Okay, so or office decorations. Huh. So bucket, button, or decorations. No screenshots. Let's go look at this button thing. Hear your name in the game. Epilogue. Well, this is going the other direction towards you. Maybe there's something else here. Right. Settings World Champion. Infinite Hull. Free achievement. Just more options. There's too many options. Alright, we're going to the button. Because I want the button. You know, like buttons. They're so button.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Wonderful. Let's do it.
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply?
Oh, yeah.
Are you really, truly Jim right now?
I'm Jim.
If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Okay, well, I'm Jim.
Jim.
Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was
intense.
you.
That was
the
me.
button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Yeah.
Jim.
Jim, oh,
It hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money.
that's right.
Let's take a break from the Jim button.
No.
I'm too emotionally drained from all of
No,
this
I don't
personal
wanna,
validation.
please. Jim.
Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Jim.
Jim.
Miss Jim. I want Jim. Jim.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Yeah. What's an actual QR code? A sequel, huh? Yeah, it's just a just an actual ad of Stanley Parable 2. How about that? Taste it. Now in Expo Hall too, by the way. Very nifty. Anyway. There's the bucket.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes,
Nope.
the bucket is the perfect solution.
Gimme.
Come on, give it a try.
Let me hold the bucket.
Can you feel it?
No.
The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they?
They do.
All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Alright, I have a bucket now. I guess.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game?
The screenshot.
That really Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Absolutely happy 12th birthday stickers.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Garbage.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision. We're moving on. Come now. You've already made your choice. It's true that you chose badly, but we all have to move on from our mistakes.
Well, if it's a choice, why would you let me choose if I could choose badly? That's not even a bad option. You're just bad. What? You're just jealous. The jump circle.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle? Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece, then.
My major disappointment is unreal. Let me jump. Jump circle. Oh, there's a whole map. This map, free achievement. I forgot about the free achievement. Give me the free achievement. Free achievement. New and easy free achievement. Give me the free achievement. Free achievement. Get it here. It's a free achievement. Yes. Yes. Pull the lever. Receive your new achievement. No more steps. Just press. Pull the lever.
Now,
Pull the
here's
lever,
something
Croc.
special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident?
No.
Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
I have the bucket for the... Fine. Didn't want it anyway.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
There's an infinite hole. It's pretty neat. What do infinite holes do?
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time, if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Didn't quite go all the way down, but sure. Infinite hole. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I guess I'm going in. I tried to step right in front of it, but here we go.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so.
Sure.
Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top.
Or what?
Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Why? What do you do? But
Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole.
it's very deep.
I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep
Like
hole.
it
It
is.
is. Is it infinite?
So
Well,
deep.
that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole.
Imagine.
You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever.
Shame.
Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling.
No.
What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely?
At least
I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem.
No.
Look, things got a little heated there. I think we
true,
both said some things we didn't mean.
Yeah.
Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite?
Or
If
infinite.
that works for you,
Mostly.
then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on.
I think
I'll
if we-
just be up here when you're ready.
If we call it infinite mostly, it'll get it even more catchy. It's like infinite ... mostly whole. You know? So kind of like some people are gonna be like really weird and be like, oh, it's an infinite mostly whole? So was it like not kind of a hole or something? You know, that sounds more ingenious, and you get people second guessing.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Mostly. The eggs. Or the achievement? No, the achievement's cute. It's over here. So where I started is the exit. Oh no, that's the exit. So then the collectibles. Can you find them? Maybe. Oh gosh.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
There's only one, isn't there? Oh, wait. Maybe. So if I go back. It's closed.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Yeah. I would hate that. Anyway. Oh. Not just the pizza. Baby logo. Red's the new orange. More of the same, but in a good way. Bankruptcy. Oh, the button says Jim. You're Jim in this game. Jim.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Mostly infinite hull. Something infinite, mostly hull would be better, but whatever. Settings world champion. There's nothing in settings. Do I need to put the bucket back, or should I return this? Or, you know. Return the bucket, don't return the bucket. The bucket is returned, I guess. I don't know. No, just a chair. Fine, it ended. I guess we'll go to the exit. Unless someone stops me. This bucket that I'm stealing.
All right, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now? So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Are you ready?
Maybe.
Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
There's a jump button. A
Um,
collectible.
well, I mean, there's potential here, right?
Button.
It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes. Yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Okay.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Seems so. That's like a horror game.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
What a nice ending.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened.
Ah.
Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow.
First it took him an hour.
No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened,
Oh my
this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket.
Alright. Look what was it?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
Stanley thought to himself. Yes,
It truly
perhaps it
was.
truly was.
Yes.
How insightful the bucket turned out to
Bucket's
be.
so smart.
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure.
I wouldn't wanna be
Stanley
anywhere else.
reflected on all they'd been through together.
I've been through so
First,
much.
walking through the door on the right, then walking to the lounge, then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired.
Bucket's so amazing. I love the bucket. Bucket's best.
Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home.
That's
Here in the
exactly what-
employee lounge.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home.
Yeah, this is quite the lounge. Just me, the bucket, that clock on the wall, the vending machine.
Stanley decided to just give the bucket absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the
I
lounge.
agree.
Clearly, the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special connection.
Me too. All three of us share a connection here. Excuse you. We're having a moment. Thanks. Okay, moment's over. I'm in lost interest.
But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
Great.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact.
bucket's smart.
He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him,
Bucket's smart.
and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Bucket knows best. I'll hail the bucket.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Really dark. Over here. Okay. Yep. Blindly following the bucket. Bucket.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Okay.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend.
Yeah.
And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Where'd my bucket go? Bucket. My bucket. No. That's good work.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Yeah, let's go back home.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Only if the bucket is for the bucket.
Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Is a loud man? I don't hear anything. We're going back home.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from, me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket, this stupid hunk of metal.
There's no one else in your land.
It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Of course. We're going back home.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
It's just the best bucket. Let's go home to work, to home to work, to home.
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
My bucket. Okay. Yes, bucket. Here I am, bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Need my bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room?
Absolutely.
Yes, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
No, just...
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Ow.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness.
Bucket?
I think we have to do something about it.
No.
This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Bunga bunga? No.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
Sure.
Item 1. Is this a bucket?
That is, I think it is.
Incorrect.
Huh?
It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket?
closer look, well, then it can't be higher. Unless there's three, it's a bucket.
Correct. This is a bucket.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
What's my life come to? Just to suffer. Yes! It's a bucket.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's
clearly
an
a
enormous
bucket.
machine that tills the earth.
Yeah, like
I thought this was
buckets.
a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up?
It's a
Absolutely incredible.
Everything's a bucket.
Let's just move on to the next one.
All for the bucket. Where?
Is this a bucket?
Oh, you're just showing me the bucket again. It's still a bucket.
Correct. This is a bucket.
Told you. Idiot.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
We're just showing different flavors of buckets. I don't know why you keep asking me this. I mean, that's a bucket.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Bucket!
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here.
There's a
And I
bucket.
don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something.
bucket.
Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing?
No.
Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Bucket!
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out.
Bucket.
I've lost all sense of perspective.
Bucket.
What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments
bucket.
ago I could answer these questions with confidence.
Oh,
And
bucket.
yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do
Feels
any of us
divine.
know what a bucket is?
Bucket.
Am I a bucket?
You are bucket. We're all the bucket.
Stanley, I
All
can't keep doing this.
No.
I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart.
I never cared
I
about our
can't have
relationship.
that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
Bucket?
What happened? Is everything gone?
Everything's bucket.
Why did everything disappear? Wait,
Everything's bucket.
was everything a bucket?
Everything's a bucket.
Every single thing in the game was a bucket.
Bucket.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
I know.
How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what.
Bucket?
I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay?
Right.
And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person?
Bucket.
All right, here we go.
I'm also assuming that's some clever coding joke with the buckets. I'm somewhat of a computer scientist myself. Anyway,
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
we
mean?
gotta...
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
Yes.
Was this better than the meeting room?
Absolutely.
Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was.
was.
How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
The bucket's so insightful. Anyway.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left
to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
The line!
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Bucket hand line.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Yes.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue? Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. It's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
What?
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
No.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
Probably makes
Go ahead now, Stanley.
seeds for pine
Say
cones
goodbye to the
that-
bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't
ahead
get
and
back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
My bucket.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Mhm.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket, Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
Bucket's
Was this
always right.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Bucket's always right.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Bucket. Get there. It's the broom closet.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it?
I feel the broom.
The broom closet. It
Yes.
wants the bucket.
It needs
You can
the
feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket.
It is the bucket.
I can really feel it now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend.
True.
You can't hand it over. Oh, no.
Yeah.
We're
Bucket's
getting
more
into
important than wife.
name-calling now, it seems.
Family.
Is this how
Kids.
low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of
Look at
petty
Mom.
insults simply
Dad.
in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
Your mother's a dry mop.
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your
Yeah.
meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies
Right.
and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
Yeah. Who says it belongs to you when it belongs to me? Just like you.
All right,
belongs
I've got
to
a
you.
second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's
Oh,
appropriate.
yeah?
You see? I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket.
True.
That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, "Ah, it's a bucket." There really is a wide variety of applications
It's a
for
bucket.
this sticker.
Oh my gosh.
You know what?
This bucket.
I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be
Fine.
honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display.
the first
You
time.
can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant
I got
room of
soundtrack for it.
cleaning
I can
supplies.
deal with it.
Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in.
It's very
I'll
childish.
see you outside, and we
Yeah.
can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
That's right. So childish of you. So foolish of you. Think you can just give me the silent treatment? You can just be like, but quieter because you give me the silent treatment. Well, no. I won't play your little games. I'm taking my bucket. And I'm leaving. I'm taking the bucket with me.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe He thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
But I have this bucket.
He looked down at the bucket in his arms.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? He asked the bucket.
Am I?
The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed,
You would say probably
now he
Stanley.
noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
Bucket.
And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad.
Bucket.
Where is it? I must find it.
the bucket.
Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Bucket.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Coming.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
Bucket.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
The bucket's inside all of us.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was.
The bucket was good.
This man had no bucket.
No bucket.
Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
My bucket. Oh. Bucket. Need a bucket.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned?
Maybe.
He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Never with the bucket, right?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket
crush.
calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Let's just keep going with the bucket. We're close.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours.
Stickers?
But alas, no stickers.
No, sir.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Executive bathroom. Losses, and that's what the boss chose.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Stream back. Yeah, anyway. Business strategy. Shoot the panda. Yes. Yes, I must say. Such beautiful fur coats.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it.
That's right.
The two of them were inseparable.
Naturally.
At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Yes. The bucket knows. Bucket knows all. Bucket is best as bucket. I almost missed this.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands?
Mini-stands?
Stanley figs. Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Like Stanley. Trophy, though. There you go.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate.
Right.
It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Where's the bucket?
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
3? But 3?
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Oh. You got me, Bucket. I'll listen to you. Bucket, you're right. We need to go. I'll come back for you later, little thing. Three.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
Bucket just doesn't understand. Yeah, maybe the Bucket understands.
A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he? Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. No, said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
Bucket? You just gotta know. It's 3. It's a magic number. Look. This means a lot to me.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears, and the whole time he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing.
Something.
The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Maybe the bucket doesn't know.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Something's just unsolvable. Unhelpable.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Yeah, okay.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Cameras?
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock.
But it didn't.
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs.
Yeah.
The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
It's gonna be okay. I'm here. I'm here now. Anywhere good, let me go to. Bucket. That's all I ask of you. Let's keep going. It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be alright as long as we have each other.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place?
Wanna hurt me?
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
It would never hurt.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Bucket's the only one who understands me. The bucket's the only one who also thinks that bottle's stupid.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Yeah. You're so sassy, bucket. Oh, you. What a sassy little bucket.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
Was it?
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away.
Bucket?
Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
gonna end part 2 there. It's getting a little late, so we're just, I'm just gonna take our time with it. Enjoy the game for what it is. I'm getting a little sleepy, a little sloppy, but you know that I'll have a bucket with me in bed tonight. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for part 3.